Hello, welcome to Moxie Journal. My name is Calyx, or I go by Moxie. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm so glad you are here with me today. You may notice from the title that this is a little bit of a departure for me in terms of content, but I think that these times call for maybe a bit of a departure. So I'm going to talk a little bit and then I'm going to get into a sort of deck parade, but it's a very specific showing of decks. I am using this hashtag, this is dumpster fire decks. This is a prompt, a series of 10 prompts created by Erin over at the Saturn Witch. Oh, excuse me, The Witch of Saturn is the name of her channel. And she said she created this video to help her process her emotions regarding all of this through the lens of tarot. And she said, I hope it helps. And if you too feel like WTF, then please know you are not alone. And I have not felt alone, but I have felt really stymied in terms of how to proceed, particularly with filming. And what I'm referring to is right now in February of 2026 here in the United States, the world very much feels it's just losing its mind. And it's felt that way for, for months and months now. But it just does. The news is very hard. And like a lot of us, I think, I have been turning to TarotTube. I'm going to talk for a minute. I've tried flipping cards while talking and I just get distracted, and then I had alarms go off, and so it stopped my filming because I film on my phone. Anyway, so this is the second or third or maybe fourth time I've tried to do this video, and I don't want to waffle too much, but I'm going to spend just a couple minutes setting the stage, and then we'll flip through the decks and talk about how to process some of this stuff. But anyway, as I was saying, the background here is there is a lot of turmoil, and in real life, I'm working in my community. I am supporting candidates I believe in. I am, in fact, the chief judge of the voting precinct in my area because I believe in free and fair elections, and I've given my energy for the past 15 years to be a part of that process. I am a veteran. I was in the Navy. In fact, I joined the Navy when I was 17, before I was old enough to vote. I would have given my life willingly for the ideals of this beautiful democratic republic that we have, if we can keep it. And so I have a lot of passion. I am also not a huge activist. I am not a big flag waver. I am an introvert. I tend to work much better in small groups. I'm not shy. I'm a connector. I do the people I love intensely and individually. I have a complicated big family. I have a complicated big relationship in my love life. I have a wonderful community. I am queer. I have a trans kid. I have a new daughter-in-law who is from a Venezuelan family. Now her family has been in the States, naturalized citizen. She was born and raised here. She's never lived anywhere else. And as you may have seen on the news, that does not seem to matter right now. So there is a lot of turmoil and upset and anxiety. And yet also, I acknowledge that I am in a really privileged position on an individual level. If I wasn't connected to the news, if I didn't see what was happening, then my small little life is actually going very well. I'm manifesting some dreams that I've been in the making for 40 years. I pass as straight, which is a complicated thing. I have white skin, so I, in a lot of ways, I have to really catch myself and pay attention to my privilege that I can, if I choose to, not face some of the stigma and problems that are going on. I work hard not to be there, but it is, it is something that I have to fight against anyway. So all of that politics, I do turn to TarotTube and have used this hobby, beautiful exploration and study of these cards, these pieces of art, as a way to escape, maybe to rejuvenate, to replenish after dealing with a lot of this stuff. So it's been a little bit hard to navigate what to say when here on my channel. I am an artist. I think art is an amazing, responsive, often subversive, provocative way to respond to our circumstances. And I love my cards for that. Shadow work is wonderful. I've been doing it, but man, what is going on right now is more than just individual shadow work, right? So anyway, I'm so grateful to Erin for creating this series of prompts to maybe use the lens of tarot to go through some of these pieces, to process a little bit, and maybe it will help. If this is not your jam, please feel free to leave and come back another time. But here we go. We're going to go through these 10 decks, answering these prompts to help kind of process some of the emotions that are coming up. So the first deck is This is Surreal. What is going on? A deck that feels like WTF is happening here. And for this deck, I chose Boadicea's Tarot of Earthly Delights, or Boudica, as she is an English heroine from history. And I'll read just a little bit about who she was. She was a real person. She was a queen of the Iceni, a tribe that occupied territory in present-day England during the Roman occupation of the 1st century of the Common Era. After her husband died, she and her daughters expected to inherit his throne under Roman law. Instead, her sovereignty was ignored. The Roman authorities annexed her kingdom and confiscated the properties of the king and all the nobles. When Boudica and her daughters confronted the Roman authorities, Boudica was scourged for her demands and her daughters were gang raped. She bided her time. She built an army. She fought back. She assembled an army. And this is a statue. She was a very fierce warrior. She took no prisoners. And I think they estimated that she assembled like 100,000 soldiers to fight for her. Now, ultimately, they were not successful. The Roman occupation was just overwhelming in terms of force, but she was a fierce resistor. And so this deck, particularly because it's combined, the other half of the title of this tarot is Of Earthly Delights, which is a nod to the work of Hieronymus Bosch, who was a creator of some very surreal pieces of art. So this beautiful deck envisions the tarot with these very surreal images. Look at the teeth on that hand, and it's flying through the air as the Ace of Ether, the Six of Tentacles. So this is definitely a deck that feels like, what is happening here? Here I am, just strumming my scarab beetle jellyfish. Not really sure, but it's delighted. Here I am just sitting with my giraffes, who are also candles with my friends. So being recognized and idolized. The Tower. That's probably a good one to end on. I'm going to try to go through these. And again, I hope I don't repeat parts of my story, because I have told it a couple times, even though you aren't going to see all of the tellings. This is the my deck choice for the prompt number 2, which is, Are You There, God? It's me, Alice, and I'm down the rabbit hole, a deck that feels like you're in an alternate universe. And for this one, I've chosen the Shadowland Tarot by Monica Badirsky. This is one of my absolute favorite decks. I do love its weirdness. It is definitely an alternate universe. Oh, I love this Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles, I used to have a lot of issues with the court. I still actually have issues with the court cards, but the Knights in particular just bugged me. Like I just wanted to slap them. But the Knight of Pentacles was the first one I made peace with. And in fact, I heard Howlite Shore in describing the Knight of Pentacles, she said, that's the knight who, when he shows up, he says, I've brought snacks and this is my draft horse Benjamin. And I thought, absolutely, that's it. And so when he turns up, I'm pretty happy. This deck, it is a Rider-Waite Smith. I don't know that clone is quite the right words, but it is very aligned to the Rider-Waite Smith meanings, and most of the symbols are close enough. I do use this deck for personal shadow work because for me it's a beautiful blend of all these colors and kind of quirky drawings, but it is a little creepy, but it's a creepy that speaks to me and my goth girl little heart. And these monsters, I grew up with Sesame Street where monsters were lovable and reclaimed, and so this is a deck for that kind of work, down the rabbit hole in an alternate universe. I highly recommend. But you know, as I may have already said, this is, there's more to it than just individual shadow work here. Anyway, so prompt number 3, will the aliens please come and end this? A deck that feels like outer space. And I have a lot of science fiction decks, but this one I just got, this is Cowgirls and Aliens, and it's an oracle, and it's a little silly, maybe it's a little lighthearted for this. I will say, I tend to have, I don't have cutesy decks, but I do tend to have somewhat more positive decks. I don't have a lot of tools maybe for these times. And I did this, I separated it. It's 36 cards, and half of them are cowgirls and half of them are aliens. So very true to the title, Cowgirls and Aliens. So I'll just kind of flip through the alien portion, but these are actually all empowering messages. This alien queen, I will celebrate my successes. The explorer, I will absorb knowledge and learn all I can. The starship captain, I love her third eye is wide open and she is looking up. She has her hands on her hips. The starship captain says, I will lead others with confidence and humility. So this is very much, will the aliens please come and end this? I would love these aliens, these empowered female presenting aliens. The space pirate, I will find the silver lining in whatever life throws at me. Honestly, I'm a little past the silver lining. I need things to change. I need to... Aliens, come help us out. Although I actually believe that we need to do it ourselves. All right, question or prompt number 4. Are we in a dark fairy tale? A deck that feels like villains abound. And I don't have a deck with a lot of villains. Oops. I'm messing with my camera. I don't have a deck with a lot of villains, as I may have mentioned, but I did think of this, The Dark Side of Tarot by Sasha Graham and Corrado Roy. And this is a really interesting take on the tarot, in that it is literally a Rider-Waite Smith, but it's reimagined in monochromatic. So the book is written by Sasha Graham and the art is by Corrado Roy, who also did Murder of Crows. And this deck, it says, a tarot practice can change a life if you allow it. And then where does it say? It's about shadow work, that might be scary, but it talks about the nature of light and dark and working with archetypes. And I thought there was something. Anyway, somewhere it talks about the dark and the light. Anyway, the guidebook is really good. It puts them side by side, and I think in terms of answering this prompt, are we in a dark fairy tale? I do like that this deck highlights the darkness, and it makes things clearer when you have fewer colors, and Corrado Roy has limited the symbolism a little bit, but it is still, you know, very, very true. In fact, some of the meanings to me, in fact, are even clearer than the Rider-Waite-Smith. But there's also a pretty serious creep factor. I mean, Corrado Roy has these, especially the faces of the men are very, that does not look like the wish come true. She looks a little mournful, in fact. But this deck has actually, oh, there's my Knight of Pentacles again. I think this is a wonderful deck to work with in these times when I've needed clarity. It's not super comforting, but it's very clear, and it is, it's interesting, actually, the write-up in the book, the guidebook on this one, you could read it without the book, sure, but there are some interesting commentary about some of the choices and about what the void, the darkness means, and what it brings to the layering in the reading. So I appreciate that, and I am going to be working with that. So prompt number 5, this shit is a fucking nightmare, a deck that feels like a fever dream. And for this, I chose another beloved deck. This is the Gothic Literature Tarot by Syrian Shadow. In the depths of the night, where shadows dance with secret, lies the heart of the soul, where every turn reveals mysteries untold and every card whispers tales of darkness and redemption. And for me, that hope really is about, I mean, the darkness. And actually, I think darkness gets a bad rap. I think darkness is can be a really positive thing. But in this instance, when we're talking about nightmares that happen usually in the dark and fever dreams, this nod to the literature and each character in this deck. Oh my God, I forgot how much I love this cardstock. It's linen and smooth and flexible, and oh, it's very nice to hold. Each character in each card in this deck is labeled with a character from a book in Gothic literature. So this is Jane Eyre, the High Priestess. I love this is Bertha Mason, who's been locked in the attic in Jane Eyre. So Count Dracula as the devil. So this is the deck that definitely feels like we're in a fever dream. It's smoky and foggy and night, and look at the 7 of Skulls, and we have skulls and chalices and torches, the Ace of Torches. I often use this deck in October, as you might imagine. Well, I say that for 2 Octobers. I've not had it that long, but I love this. Oh, that Ace of Ravens. Even this Temperance card. Love that. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Strength. Why don't we end on the Strength card here for this prompt? So that's prompt number 5. Number 6, Our Country, the American Horror Story. A deck that feels like a horror story. You're gonna get tired of me saying it. I don't have a lot of decks that feel totally like a horror story, but the one I chose for this is the El Goliath Tarot deck. This is a deck, I have the 3rd edition. I just missed getting the 2nd edition, and I was really bummed about that. And I was so excited when he was coming out with a 3rd edition. I took it out of its box. It is a tuck box, and you can, I don't know if you can see, this box makes me angry. The cards are sticky, and when I open it, it's almost impossible. This little part is messed up because I have to fight with it. Several times I've just started to just rip the tuck box. But I didn't, and I don't actually think I'm going to be keeping this deck. Some of the cards I absolutely love. Let's see if I can find a card I love. Of course, none of them are. That one's okay. I love Tentacles. That one's really great. And I had seen some of the art, but sometimes I And I like a little bit of creepy, but this one just ended up really being very difficult for me. But I think this artist Elgoliath is an amazing illustrator. Very knowledgeable. I totally support his art. This just rubs me the wrong way. So this kind of a parallel of something I thought would be wonderful and inspiring, and in fact actually just bothers me. I don't like monkeys. This bear out. What's going on with that sun? Sometimes I draw, when I work with this deck, I draw these cards and I'm like, ugh. And that's supposed to be a really good card. This is one of the extra cards. It's the Hidden Wolf. It's about masks. I can't handle that. This is the Star card, one of the most hopeful cards in the deck. And I don't have the book on this. There is a PDF. The original one, I think, came with a book, maybe. I struggle with PDFs. Anyway, here's this hopeful card, and to me that looks like a wonderful tree that has been just sawed down, so that doesn't seem like a very hopeful image to me. The Magician, what's going on with that guy? The High Priestess is one of my favorite cards, and I can't even with this hairless cat. The Empress, I don't love Starseed. The Judgment, I mean, I think that's a very fair representation of judgment, right? An awakening, the transcendence. Yeah, and I can't even with this deck. So if you happen to be interested, I do want this deck to go to a good home, to someone that energy of those stark images. I love black and white images, as we saw with the dark side. I have several black and white decks that really work for me, but that one, I'm glad I tried it, but it is going to be going on, as I hope the American Horror Story that we're living right now, I hope it moves on into a better place. All right. Prompt number 7, Apocalypse Now, a deck that feels like the old world is gone. I chose the Deleted World Tarot. This is it says Between Pixels and Prophecy. This is a really interesting deck, and I hadn't gotten it out recently, but when I saw her prompt, it says, what is not saved will be lost. And this is a deck that really kind of does its own thing. It is a tarot, sure. It's got some really interesting pieces in here. This is a little book that's got some of the symbols and associations, but it's also got some... Anyway, let me get the cards out and we'll talk about them. I think there was a thing in here I wanted to tell you about. It says, the opening of this deck, it says, "Greetings, traveler. You have stumbled upon the Atlas of Deleted Worlds, a forbidden grimoire masquerading as a mere guidebook, charting the forgotten realms and unmapped territories of reality's shadowed edges. The Deleted World is a liminal domain, nestled in the spaces between spaces, the pauses between heartbeats, the glitches between dimensions, and the ghost files in the cosmic machine. It is a realm of unfinished tales, forsaken dreams, and realities that never quite came to be. Entire timelines deemed unfit or too strange for continuance branch off into the haze of the unknown." And really, our timeline, man. So these cards are fascinating because they have the symbols on the sides, and you saw in the book, but they also... this is one that I do, in fact, read with reversals, because there are different keywords here with each of the mercy and restriction. The world invented the virtual world, right? For temperance. The world between things. This is the strength card. Look at this strength card. On the other side, it's the interface. So this is definitely, I think, a deck that feels like the old world is gone. It is replaced by this very interesting yeah, Escher, like recursion, recursion, recursion. But then the opposite is reunion, reunion, reunion. Anyway, I love this deck. I hadn't thought about it until this prompt, and this one is going to stay on my desk. All right, so just a few more prompts here. We just did Apocalypse Now 8. Rage is the appropriate response, a deck that feels like anger. I have chosen Supernatural. Join the hunt. This is a fandom deck. These are my pals, Dean and Sam, although I can't but not think of him as Dean. If you know, you know. This is an Inside, what is this company called? Insight Edition. And I think they had sort of a bad rap for a while, and maybe some of them are. I only have a couple of theirs, but I love this one. It was written by Minerva Siegel. She also is the writer for the new Dune one. I think this one, it's pippish, but I really like the way it's done. And the reason I chose it here is because I don't have a lot of decks that feel like anger, but Sam and Dean are monster hunters. They fight back. Look at this. I like her. The strength. They hunt down what is wrong and not supposed to be, that is causing havoc and hurting people, and they go and kill it. They trap it. They banish it. And I think this deck is really, it's the Ace of Blades. Let's see, there's Blades. Oh, the Queen of Blades. She's great. And Blades and Bones. And I think it's really reflective of the show. And yeah. The Fools. I will end on Sam and Dean right here as the fools who... And they have complicated pieces, right? They have brotherhood. They've inherited this monster hunting gig from their dad who's disappeared. They're raised in a certain way. Poor Dean, but really Sam, I mean, I think of him as Dean. He just wants to marry his girlfriend and leave it all behind. And yet he's pulled into this world, and he is often very mad. They're mad at each other, but then they join forces and they turn their anger to the monsters. So that is my response for that one. We have two more. I'm running out of places to put decks, and I'm actually going to show more than two decks. So this number 9 is Fuck the Patriarchy, a deck that feels like manifesting the matriarchy. And for this one has been on my desk. This is Call of the Morgan Oracle. I actually have another Morgan here. I have a specific little goddess figure here from Bridget's Grove. And these cards are definitely... this is an Oracle deck by Stephanie Woodfield, Kara Storminger, and the art is by Naomi Cormick. And these cards are very much a call to the matriarchy, Lady of Sovereignty. They are fierce. They are beautiful. They are deep. They're edgy. This is definitely on the edgier side of my decks there. This is, I had another version of this and then gave it away. And so these cards are a little, I can tell I haven't worked with them enough because they're still a little sticky. The washer at the Ford. It has a great guidebook, and this is definitely a Fuck the Patriarchy deck. Look at this battle. The Morgan is a wonderful entity to work with in this time. Even just the cow image here and the eel. Anyway, so there's a lot going on. All right, so I love this, the Call of the Morgan, and there is a lot to read, and it has spells and workings to do in addition to just the cards and spreads, right? There's manifesting, there's some divination for difficult journeys. And then for prompt number 10, it's Fight Back, a deck that feels like hope. And I actually have a stack here because I couldn't decide. I have the first one that I have been turning to is the Nap Ministries Rest deck. These are 50 practices to resist grind culture. This is an anti-capitalism, anti-grind culture, anti-hustle. It's by a creator, Trisha Hersey. It's a Black woman in the Nap Ministry. If you haven't seen these cards, they are a little bowed. The card stock is, part of it is I've kept it in a really humid environment. But it's their I don't know, Oracle Affirmations card. As I rest, I must make space for others to rest. I am magical and divine. Rest does not have to be earned. It's this sort of subversive feeling here. Rest does not have to be earned. Whisper it silently, boldly proclaim it, write it over and over. Place this card on your bathroom counter. You don't have to earn rest. It is your birthright. I am enough. So these cards are reminders to fight some of those patriarchal capitalist messages that have been pervasive and part of holding us down, keeping us back. The Tarot Apocalypsis is by the same folks who did Illuminati. And I don't have the big book that goes with this. I didn't buy the set. I just have the deck. But this is a deck that is scenes from all over the world, different cultures. And I do need to get the big guidebook that goes with it. I struggled a little bit, and I featured this deck on my channel. I could show a few more cards. I'm not even looking at the camera to make sure I was showing them well. But someone mentioned this was a really good deck for doing work around the larger political situation, world readings. And at the time I said, oh, I don't really do a lot of those. So I kind of just put this deck aside. I did actually take it to Vegas with me because the colors, the stories just kind of seem over the top that way. And I read it, but I think that this deck would be, because it is focused on world cultures and there's a lot going on, I think it would be a good one to use for some of this work that makes me feel hopeful that maybe this too shall pass, although I hope that what passes is not my ideal, beautiful government. Anyway, not the government as is, but we the people, for the people, liberty and justice for all. That's what I hope does not pass, or that we get it back. So the other two decks that give me hope are sort of inherently queer decks, the Fifth Spirit by Charlie Claire Burgess and Apothecary Spirits Oracle. I see myself in these decks. I see my community in these decks. I love Charlie Claire Burgess's work, and it gives me hope that the world will be made safe for all of us here. If you don't know Charlie Claire Burgess, they have written some really created some great decks and also written some really good books. So I will put them in the description box. I love this Queen of Cups. It's one of my favorite cards in the deck usually. And it says, can I see this? A queer inclusive deck for a world beyond binaries. And I love the hopefulness of this deck at a time where it feels like we have, in the past short while, we have gone back a million steps. This other one, this Apothecary Spirits, I've been using this one recently. I've been pairing it. I'll show that at my end of the month wrap up. But this is a Apothecary Spirits Oracle. It is plant allies, energetic spirit work. And it does just have the key word here. It has the title, not the keyword. For the keyword, you need to look in the book. But gentian root, it's deconstruction, breaking down, decomposition, right? So it talks about what the herb is and then how that relates to its oracular properties. But one of the things about this deck is that in the creation of it, they said that, and it's 3 people, 3, Michael Anthony, Thomas Witholt, and Eric Maley. Male? Anyway, I don't know how you say his name. Flower fairies became plant allies, and that then became the spirits and energies working through the medicine of an entire apothecary. And the gayness of those original flower fairies evolved into a more diverse set of queer experiences and references that infused the deck. And that's as it should be. Herbalism and divination both exist outside of the norms with which most of us grew up. You could say that they are inherently queer in the way that we represent them in the Apothecary Spirits Oracle. And that just made my heart happy, in addition to these wonderful, beautiful drawings and learning about the meanings of and also ways to use some of these plants and herbs. And so this deck gives me hope. All right, so there you have it. These are some decks that are helping me process. I hope that you are finding a way to process. Please connect with me. Leave a comment if any of this resonates with you. If you do this tag, I would love to see it. I would love to see how other people are working on this. Thank you so much, Erin, for your contribution here. And may we stay connected, and may we have truth and beauty and justice and equity for all. Bye, my friend. See you in the next one.